Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Chris Nunez of the Buena Park Police Department. Now, we didn't bring our viewers into the community center to see a whole bunch of empty chairs and of people standing around, so there's got to be a reason why we're here.
Right. The meeting is scheduled to begin shortly in about 30 minutes or so. But there's been a lot of discussion and information that we presented in last program that will culminate here tonight, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully this generates a lot of community interest and some questions from the audience that show up tonight.
Well, and what we're talking about is the use of force, and just understanding a little bit, or trying to provide an understanding as to why police officers do what they do, the laws, the reasons, and whatever else. So does that mean we're really going to get to understand how police officers think, or is that still going to be an enigma?
You know, I think this will hopefully provide enough information for those who are curious to ask questions. And that's what this is for, is to hopefully provide information, at least enough superficial information so people can have a general idea, and from that point ask legitimate questions that will definitely spark some dialogue, and that's what's important here tonight. I think is we're trying to get out ahead of some of the obvious questions that people want to know. Of course, every case is different. Every use of force incident is different, but there are some certain similarities, regardless of the agency involved, and particularly here in California, since we're dealing with California law. But of course, across the nation, there are many police departments that are confronted with the same questions and often have very similar response. In many cases, that's a lack of a response. So hopefully this is informative to our viewers tonight, and like I said earlier, at least we'll provide enough information for them to ask directed questions for specific types of incidents, because the response may be different from the police department.
Well, and it's interesting, at a baseline, police officers are humans. They have to have the structure, they have to have the rules, the laws in order to direct their actions, but at the end of the day, they're humans, and police officers think like everybody else, but in a different type of world and with different circumstances.
Yeah, of course, some of that human factor is addressed through training and continuing education from our profession, from the law enforcement side. But like you said, we're people too, and of course subject to all the emotions and physiology that anybody is. So much of that is addressed through training, and we're very serious about that here at Buena Park. And you'll see some of that human emotional issue that comes into play in the presentation tonight.
You have to note, too, that there are not any other departments other than one in Orange County who are providing this opportunity to the community to learn a little bit about use of force and to open up the dialogue. And the Buena Park Police Department should be commended for at least opening it up as opposed to shutting down. So we're going to wait while the people file in, and we're going to give you a little overview of what was discussed here, and I'm sure you will find it very interesting.
Your Buena Park Police Department welcomes you to this presentation of Understanding Police Use of Force. With the current perception challenges law enforcement face daily, it is our intent to maybe shed some light on misunderstandings when we use force. To be open and honest during this presentation. We also want to reduce some of the misunderstandings ahead of time, which is why we are here. We are risking our perception as we stand in front of you and divulge some of the information that we're about to give you. One thing we want to emphasize is that there is nothing nice or glamorous about police use of force when the officers are out there conducting the business of making our community safe here in Buena Park. Even while producing this presentation, I personally had unique challenges, what to call it, what format to use, what speakers, those types of things. All the while thinking that we know that there's going to be some risks. So we decided to take the risk. So today, what are we going to do? We're going to talk about force, defining it. We're going to show examples of police encounters. We're going to show what options that we have at our disposal to mitigate those uses of forces we encounter out in the field, the challenges we face, and the overall incident analysis post use of force. So before we move forward, it is my pleasure to announce our Chief of Police, your Chief of Police for the City of Buena Park, Chief Corey Sinus.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is the first time we've done something like this, and it required a lot of staff time, so there's many people to thank for putting this together tonight, but it's really nice to see a good crowd and that you're interested in this type of topic. You know, the goal tonight is to make sure that you walk away from tonight's presentation with something. You know, we're here to kind of explain to you what we do and why we do it, and allow you to be able to have the opportunity to ask questions. We all know the issue of use of force is a hot topic in the media. We see it almost every day in the news. It's also a political issue. We have politicians now from the state and the federal level that are getting involved in trying to tell us what to do and when to do it. As we've all seen in cities around us, that one controversial use of force incident can really change the dynamics of a relationship between the police department and its community. I'd like to start by showing you a short video that one of our news channels put together regarding officer-involved shootings. Again, as the captain mentioned, if you have young kids, it gets a little graphic, so just be cautious of that. And it's a good depiction of events that I believe that comes into an officer's mind, and because we start talking about mindset, because mindset is very important when officers use force and there's deadly force use, and I think we'll get into that a little bit more as we move into this program, but I want to start off by showing this what I thought is a very good video.
Accused of opening fire on police in an ambush attack, killing a state trooper.
Suspect attacking an officer with his own baton.
An officer is attacked from behind, and in less than 6 seconds, it gets even worse.
The chief says not a single SEPTA passenger called for help, but this lady did take out her phone to record the fight.
Police say this young couple came here hunting for police officers to kill, and they found them.
I told you, you were speeding.
Stop! 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 What you got? What you got?
Put the gun down! Put it down now! Stay in the car! Get in the car!
After watching this video, you get a pretty good idea how things could rapidly change in an encounter. These are real videos. This is not made up. This is not a movie. These things really happened. There's people out there like that have no respect for law enforcement. What starts off as being a routine encounter can suddenly turn into a fight for your life. Some survive these types of encounters, some don't, unfortunately. I wanted to show this video because what I hope that you do is, in the next hour and a half to 2 hours, is be able to walk in our shoes. Because seeing it on TV and being able to put yourself in our position when these incidents happen is what I want you to walk away with tonight. Every single day, police officers face danger while carrying out their duties. They never know what's going to happen on the next call. They get that call on the radio, they don't have any idea what they're going to encounter, or who they're going to encounter, or what they're wanted for, or if they're going to fight. They have no idea in the world. So it's very unpredictable. We can't let our guard down. We can't become complacent. And we have to be alert and on our toes at all times, every minute. There is no room for error in these cases. An error could mean your life. When you encounter individuals with no value for life, you have to have that tactical advantage and upper hand. They are looking for you to make a mistake. They are waiting for that moment where they can get the upper hand from you. You never want to let your guard down. This is why sometimes, and I hear complaints sometimes from the community, why do you have so many officers at a scene? Well, this is one of the reasons we do. We want to put in that individual's mind that there's no way he's going to win this fight. Doesn't mean we're going to get in a fight, but we want him to think, I better cooperate, or else I'm going to go to jail. Officers usually have very little time to assess a situation and determine how to respond properly. They are held to a higher standard in society, clearly. You know, as a police chief, one of my top priorities is to make sure that our officers go home at night to their families. That's my ultimate goal. No police chief wants to lose an officer on their watch. Unfortunately, we have, and it's not a very pleasant experience. That means that as a chief, I must make sure that I provide our officers with the best possible tools and the best possible training to be able to make good decisions under those stressful conditions like you saw here on the video. I believe that if you fail to train, you train to fail. You have to be good at what you do. To put it in perspective, I want to now provide you with some statistics. For your police department, the Buena Park Police Department in 2014. Because I think this brings it into perspective, because you see these incidents on the news every day. You think they happen every day. Last year, we handled over 46,000 calls for service in this community. Out of those 46,000 calls, we arrested a little over 3,600 people. Out of those 46,000 encounters, we only had 34 uses of force. 34. 0 officer-involved shootings. That means that force was used less than 1% of the time. Actually, it equals about 0.65%. You wouldn't think that watching the news on a daily basis. One would think it happened much more often. Now let me talk about the current environment and some reasons why officers are so vigilant and always on high alert. Last year, 122 police officers lost their lives in the line of duty in the United States. In the past 10 years, 1,051 officers have lost their lives protecting their communities. Almost 50,000 officers were assaulted in this nation last year. Suicide by cops are on the rise. There are more firearms today on the street than ever before. Domestic terrorism is a reality. It's a reality here in Orange County as well. We're seeing more mass casualty incidents and individuals killing mass number of people than ever before. We're seeing incidents about police officers that are sitting in coffee shops or sitting in their police cars writing police reports when people walk up to them and just shoot them for no reason at all. That's what society is today. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the media. They can be our friend because there's times that we need them. They can also do damage. They do a good job of Monday morning quarterbacking an incident that they have very limited information on. And I'm not here to say that we're perfect, because we're not. What I'm saying is it's hard to come to a conclusion when you only have a small bit of information. You got to remember that they're in the business of entertainment, capturing viewership. So they want to capture your attention. Controversy equals viewership. They usually have limited information and or facts regarding the incident, and they come to conclusions. I don't believe they're very objective at times. So as you can see, the current environment is dangerous and worse than I have ever seen in my 35 years in law enforcement. As a police chief, I understand why you, the public, expect our officers to make good decisions each and every time they use force. I expect the same from them. However, we all know this is a difficult standard to meet because nobody's perfect, and the decisions to use force are made under tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving situations. Split-second decisions. You don't have a lot of time. You got to do something, or else your life could be in danger. You have a very professional police department that serves this community. And I'm extremely proud to say that our officers and support staff do an outstanding job in providing public safety in this community.
So it would be helpful as we move through our presentation to define and give some of the basics of force and what it means. Some of the basics meaning the dictionary version and explanation of force compared to the law enforcement version. The dictionary defines force as strength or energy exerted to cause motion to change, or to cause motion or change. The law enforcement definition is similar, however, it is the amount of effort required by police to compel compliance by an unwilling subject. And you're going to hear the word compliance, comply. Even many times during the presentation, comply, compliance. And there's a reason for that, and you'll learn that reason as we move forward. It is simply the act of doing what is asked of you. Now, to know how force evolves for our police department, for your police department, 60+% of the time, a use of force evolves from a call for service from the community, from you, from our businesses, from our residents. 60+% of the time, that's how a use of force evolves. And so, with that, we're going to tell you, or we're going to show you and let you listen to an actual Buena Park Police 911 audio recording of one of those calls for service.
Buena Park Police.
Yeah, hi, I'm calling from Coles. I'm with the LP. I was wondering if there's an officer in the area that could give some assistance.
What kind of assistance?
Well, I got a subject in here that he's taking some items and he's about to...
What is your name, please? And your callback number? This person's in the store, correct?
Yeah.
Male, white, black, Asian, or Hispanic?
He might be male and Hispanic.
Approximate age?
Probably 30 years of age.
Wearing what colored shirt?
Green dress shirt.
Is that a long sleeve shirt?
Yeah.
What else is he wearing?
He's got a tie on, surprisingly.
Uh-huh.
He's wearing a green beanie, green brown.
What color pants, please?
Looks like black slacks.
And what part of the store is he in now?
He's now at the jewelry department, which is on the south side of the building.
And he was prior in what areas taking things?
He was in our housewares department. He got a jacket and it has a security sensor on it. He went into our housewares and went into a little satchel that he has. He's actually pulling a
Okay, so he is still inside the store. He has not left. Is that correct?
Correct. He's got one shirt in his hand, and he was just asking someone, looked like he was asking.
As you can tell, there was a lot of information being generated from one of your business owners or one of the residents that when we received that emergency radio call or emergency dispatch call from our community. And during that time, either during the call for service, or during the telephone call that you heard the dispatcher speaking with the person, and or directly after that, dispatchers, other dispatchers are dispatching units to respond to that call for service. And so what happens once the call is sent to the police officer? He or she will arrive and they will have some form of contact with someone as a result of that radio call or that dispatch call. And one of three things happens. They either encounter a subject consensually, and what that means is that the officer simply engages in a simple conversation, and the person is free to leave at any point, and is also free not to answer any questions that the officer is asking. However, when the officer feels or knows that the person that they are speaking with and having a conversation with is suspected of some form of illegal activity and starts asking questions pertaining to that, that is called a detention. That person is no longer free to leave at all. And that is the point where, at times, this is when the use of force occurs. During that detention, an officer may form an opinion based on the circumstances and the call for service that they have probable cause to arrest somebody. And when they do that, that is called a simple arrest.
Any peace officer has a reason to believe that the person to be arrested has committed a public offense may use reasonable force to effect an arrest, prevent escape, or overcome resistance. Now, you or I as a civilian, we don't have the ability to go out and do that. But when we see a peace officer in a video clip using force on someone, we think, is that force justified? Well, it's just simply a lot of people don't have the knowledge that we have on what we're allowed to do. That's one of the goals tonight, is to inform you of this. It continues, it says, a peace officer who makes or attempts to make an arrest need not retreat or desist. So if we go to make an arrest on someone, put our hands on them, and they start pulling away, we don't have to stop right there. We can continue on. We can use the same amount of force, change the amount of force, as it says in the first portion, to effect an arrest, prevent escape, or overcome resistance. Ultimately, our goal on use of force is to gain control. If we're going to utilize the force, something has come up where we need to restore order and maintain peace. We do this by gaining control. There are many different devices that we use. Some of the uses of force are enough to make people comply, but when not, we have devices such as handcuffs. That's the most common form that we see, but there are many others. Oftentimes, as we spoke earlier, the mere presence of us being there, our verbal commands are not enough, and the person has decided that they're not going to follow what we're telling them to do, comply, they want to resist. Another type of force that we can use is called the impact weapon. Corporal Kutana is going to show us a couple of different types that we've got presented up here. The idea of an impact weapon is to deliver an amount of force concentrated to a section of a person's body so that they comply with pain or disablement. If you strike someone in the knee and they knock them off balance and go down to the ground, you can take them into custody. Corporal Kutana has what's known as a PR-24, it's an animaton. This is used by many agencies throughout the nation, throughout the world actually. But they all have the same basic effect. Another type of impact weapon is called a projectile impact weapon. There are many scenarios where a police officer may not want to get close to hands-on range with a person for their safety. Someone may be armed with a knife, someone may be armed with some other device, may want to hurt themselves or hurt another person. And moving towards that person may not be prudent. So we do have other devices such as the 40mm projectile launcher and the pepperball gun that we can utilize. These tools are very effective when you have a bit of a standoff distance and you don't want to make that closing contact. The 40mm shoots a foam it's not really a pellet, it's like a bullet, but it's made of foam. However, it's fired with such force and has such mass, when it hits, it really has a knockdown power.
After a packed house has left the building, Chief, how do you think that this presentation went?
You know, I thought it went very well. I thought that the audience was engaged. They were interested in the topic. And I think they walked away with a different understanding regarding the use of force by police officers.
At the end, I could tell that you were really, not that you weren't through the rest of the presentation, but it was really heartfelt what you were saying. It seems that it affects you to know that there's that use of force and that officers have to take that next step.
It does affect me because, you know, I've had 35 years in this business. I have a passion for this job. And educating people and like I said at the beginning of the program, is getting them to just walk in our shoes for a couple of hours while they're at this presentation and getting a good understanding of what we do and why we do it. And I have a lot of pride in our officers, and I think our police department and our men and women that serve this department are professionals. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we don't make mistakes. And we really reached out to these community members tonight to kind of demonstrate what we do and let them know that there are times that things aren't going to all look that great. But this is our way of being transparent and kind of opening the doors and kind of letting them see what we do and why we do it and ask questions.
Sergeant, I know you were involved with setting this all up as well as other officers in the department. This is an immense topic, so to be able to get it down into 1 hour, it's a huge topic. There must be so many other points about it that weren't brought up.
Oh yeah, this is, I mentioned earlier, this is really scratching the surface of this subject matter, and there are a lot of areas that we could have really dug deeper into and explained in more detail what that entailed. But I think what the chief was presenting tonight was kind of the broad spectrum, and again, letting our audience, letting our community members kind of get a glimpse of what it might be like if they were in our shoes, and just provide that opportunity for them to pause and think twice before they come to judgment.
If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901. Check us out on the internet at bppd.com. So with Chief Sinus and Sergeant Nunez, I'm Jane Cameron. Thanks for watching.